Welcome back to the channel. This week we're spending our entire time with this 2025 Mercedes-Benz EQB. Now the EQB is one of the smaller SUVs that you can get from Mercedes-Benz. It's also fully electric with a little bit of range. It's more, I'd say, on the lower end of range, especially what I'm noticing here in the minus like 20 conditions. We really aren't seeing that much at 100%, but I'm going to take you through all of that and everything in between. I think it's still relatively nice as an SUV. I think it looks pretty decent. It's got kind of the Mercedes styling, which I do like, with the front grille there, the side profile. It looks a little small, but I'll tell you, on the interior, it's not that bad. We got quite a bit of space, especially in the rear. I was actually surprised to find. You can see it's all covered in snow here because that's about all I've got to deal with in Quebec, but it's the 300 and of course the 4MATIC version, so that is also going to be quite nice to have. All-wheel drive in the winter, of course, is almost a necessity here in Quebec, so I'm really glad to have that. But let's hop inside. Let me mount the GoPro up. I'll give you my first driving impressions. I'll take you through range and interior, exterior, and everything else in between. Let's do it. All right, so on the road now, EQB, Mercedes EQB with the 4MATIC. Thank goodness. I was a little bit worried when I was picking this up. I was like, do you know if it's all-wheel drive? He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the 4MATIC. So I think it'll be okay, because despite it being electric, I don't know if I want to drive a rear wheel in the current condition of the Quebec roads. There's so much blowing snow, just so much snow in general, that it just seems like the city cannot get rid of all of it fast enough. Some parts are dry, some parts are extremely full of snow. So far, this is a small vehicle, I think aided a little bit weight-wise by the battery pack, which isn't a big one. I mean, we are in like minus 24 weather here with the wind chill. I'm at 84%. I've got 189 kilometers with a max of 267. So I think if I put the eco mode on and do all that stuff, then it will be 267. But I think currently got 188 kilometers, which doesn't bring a lot of confidence, to be honest. I mean, it's good enough to like run the daily errands and do that stuff, but it's kind of where it ends, right? Like, there's like, what else am I gonna be able to do? Like, I would not want to road trip this thing. It would scare me. I mean, I don't even know if I'd make it. I mean, who knows? I mean, the range could be around like the 300-400 in the top end of stuff in like warm weather, and who knows, maybe as it gets a little less aggressive with the weather out here during the week, it'll get better. I hope so, because yeah, it's just like, I feel like I see 187, even if like talking about like a gas car, I see 187, I want to go get gas. It's like, so I constantly want to sit on a charger with this thing, but you know, it's just not realistic. I just can't do that. Thankfully for me, I don't have that much of a daily commute that requires me to, you know, drive a lot during the day. You know, my work is close, my daughter's daycare is close to home, everything's very close. But if I had a long commute to do, I would be very, very concerned about making it there consistently and making it back if I wasn't able to charge or anything like that. It feels like anywhere I go with this thing, I'm looking for a charger, because I could always use a top up, which is like not the most confidence inspiring, right? But overall, the handling feels decent enough. Driving feels decent. These seats are not the most comfortable. They're a little bit hard for my taste. But we'll see if I can tune them in as we get through. I do get a week. You know, I don't get an hour with these things. I do get a week. So I do get to kind of dial the vehicle into my liking and my style, which is really helpful. But we'll see if we can do anything about that as well. But visibility's good, pretty decent. It does get pushed around by the heavy winds. I mean, we're getting like 60-kilometer gusts. And, you know, when I'm on an open road with no trees on either side, the EQB's getting pushed. The EQB's getting bullied by Mother Nature big time. So that's a little bit on the highway. I was a little bit not so much liking that part either, but we'll see how it is just to get to your point A to point B. If you want to drive a Mercedes that's an EQB that's sort of like an SUV, I actually have a ton of room in the back, which is really impressive. We'll see. You know, that's what I'll say now. Is so far so good, but we will see. We'll do some, like, hopefully we'll be able to do a little bit more sporty driving, because right now, if I press the gas or if I press the accelerator, I'm just going to spin. That's all that's going to happen. There's too much blowing snow, too much wind, too much snow to do absolutely anything. But so far it's handling the winter weather pretty decently, so I'll take that. But yeah, we will pick it back up later. I'll show you ins and outs and everything, so you know what it's like to live with a Mercedes EQB 4MATIC. I'll pick it back up later. All right, welcome back outside with the Mercedes EQB. We're gonna take another walk around because we have the sun now a little bit more. Also, the car is a lot more dirty, but I really want to know what you guys think of this spec. Do you think it should exist at all? Personally, so far this week, I think it's a good SUV, maybe not a good EV, if that makes sense, just because the range is really not up to spec. I'll show you that in just a moment here. We'll just kind of take a look at the back as well. It's really dirty, the back. The back collects dirt like nobody's business, but I don't mind the looks of it. I think it looks maybe a little bit more old school, kind of like a more fancy Kia Soul, if you will, maybe a bit longer too than a Kia Soul. But you know, like if Mercedes were to do a Kia Soul, this is maybe what it would be like. But yeah, I think it's a really excellent SUV, just missing some things to make it a good EV. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let's just open the door here, and then we should be able to see our range right away. Let me just close this. So you can see on the left-hand side there, you can see I've got 97%, 219 kilometers, a max of 304. Now, there is the argument to be said that I could be missing a little bit because it's cold out, because it's like, you know, minus 15 or whatever it is. But still, I think that's a little short, on the short end for a lot of people. So that's going to be an issue for the majority. It's not an issue for me because my commute's short and stuff like that, but I constantly feel like I have to plug this thing in so I don't have range anxiety. But last but not least, let's check out the trunk here. It's, of course, an automatic tailgate, so that's really nice. And we have a ton of room, actually. We've got a nice privacy screen as well. A little bit of storage underneath the carpet here where you're going to keep your charger, your tow hook, stuff like that. So you got a decent amount of space, a really good amount of space in the rear too. So since we have a lot of space in the trunk, that again is something that makes the EQB a good SUV. But like I said, that range is just not good enough to make it a full EV. But let me know what you think. I really want to hear what you think in the comments. So comment below and let me know what you think of this spec. All right, so sitting inside the EQB now, I'll show you quickly around the interior of the front. So when you hop in first, you're greeted by this pretty nice Mercedes steering wheel. I don't hate it, right? Got kind of the silver accents. It's pretty big too. It's a nice and big steering wheel. You do have like these haptic like feedback buttons sort of, and where you can kind of like move up and down with the little arrows there. Some people are going to absolutely hate that. Some people are not going to mind it. I don't mind it because it works well, but I can definitely see how people wouldn't like it. So right hand side is for your volume control, and also you can control the center infotainment display as well. Left hand side is going to be your cruise control stuff. All the way to the left though, you can see we've got the lighting controls as well as the classic kind of Mercedes seat controls with the heated seating button. And if you look just around the steering wheel here, you can see I've got a heated steering button on or off. Very cool, and not always seen right there. So in case you have a Mercedes, you can check if you have that button right there. Now I do have a fully digital gauge cluster. It's nice to look at, pretty decent. I've got a couple of different themes. You see I can go through the sport theme. Oops, sport theme, gonna go over, and then you can see it's just reverting back because I didn't press OK properly. There we go. And then you got sport theme, you've got understated. You gotta actually click OK for that to do it. There we go. And then I also have the classic as well, which is pretty nice. But you can see it also shows me my battery level. I've got 96% and I'm at 222 kilometers, max 301. So not a lot of range here on the EQB. We'll adjust kind of all that a little bit later when we start driving it and stuff. But yeah, pretty decent gauge cluster. I don't hate it. Pretty decent infotainment display. It's the MBUX stuff. Built-in navigation, built-in Android Auto, wireless Apple CarPlay, all that stuff. You've got your EQ button where you can kind of see a little bit more of your electric stuff. I've got the comfort stuff, which is like the ambient lighting and stuff. Settings, there's not a lot to go into depth here with this vehicle. It's very straightforward, which I think a lot of you will like. I've got the climate button right here. I can click the climate menu. You can see that's what we have. I've got nice vents here as well. Dual zone automatic climate control, so that's going to be very nice to use. There's a decent amount of physical buttons that operate stuff, and there's like quick access around, like the climate menu, specifically the climate menu. That's what you're going to be using the most, so that's good to see. A little bit lower, have a wireless charging pad, USB-C cable right there. The standard 2 cup holders, the dynamic button, which gives us our drive mode. So we've got comfort, eco, sport, and individual. Then if I press the parking button, that's going to bring up the rear camera as well as the kind of assisted parking function. There's no 360 degree, no overhead, so you're going to have to deal with these kind of different angles, but it's still decent for what it is. The volume controller here, a little bit of like a matte storage here, and then definitely the 2 double opening storage that we usually have right there. The passenger seat, you can see over there, also gets the heated seats and the memory settings. There's 3 memory settings for the seats. Seats are decently comfortable, not too bad. There's nothing to write home about in terms of design. It's completely black in my trim. There's nothing to write home about, I guess, about the overall interior design for the EQB, and I think maybe that's by design to hopefully keep the cost down. I mean, it's still kind of an expensive vehicle. It's like over 60 grand, I'm pretty sure, so it's still going to be expensive. It's not the most premium Mercedes I've been in, not by far. It's actually one of the more cheap-feeling ones that I've actually been in. I don't know if that's just an EQB problem or, you know, maybe this vehicle shouldn't exist at all. That I'll leave up to you, though. But, yeah, definitely not the most premium thing. But I do really like the steering wheel. I like the paddles here that you can set your regeneration braking on and stuff like that. So there is good stuff in here. It still feels decent, drives decent as well, which is important. But, yeah, let me know what you think so far. Let me know what you think of the interior, and I'll pick it back up later. All right, so leaving this parking lot, going for another drive in the EQB. Might be able to test some sport mode stuff out to see what kind of kick this EV has. I'm not expecting anything crazy, but look, I'll tell you though, the ride quality's been good. The noise isolation's been decent as well. Since there's no engine or anything like that, you really will notice road noise and tire noise and stuff like that. It's not terrible. I think that part at least is decent. The sort of one pedal driving that exists is also okay, but I don't know. I feel like it's too aggressive. Like, it's when I put it on like max regen, it's way too aggressive for my taste. So I usually tend to keep it off, or I keep it at like strong, the middle point, and the car kind of behaves a little bit better. But yeah, ride quality's been good too. I really don't have any complaints.
You have not subscribed to this service. To use it, you first have to activate the service in the Mercedes Me app.
That's wonderful. I don't even know why that went off, because I didn't ask for anything. Maybe because I'm saying the M word, and maybe we won't do that too much, but I'll say, like, you know, this Benz. So that lady doesn't go off and interrupt me. But anyways, it's been a super easy vehicle to use. I think in the winter, especially, the 4MATIC is really going to come in handy. I could not imagine. I think these things come in front-wheel drive if you don't go with the 4MATIC. I don't know. I definitely could not imagine a rear-wheel drive version of this being good in the winter. Front-wheel drive, if you got good winter tires, you should be able to survive, but the amount of snow that we got here in Canada has just been ridiculous. But the EQB's handled a lot of the worst, not the worst of the worst, so I didn't have the car when it was like dumping on us, but it did handle a couple of bad situations, just a couple of situations where I was like, oop, I don't know if I like driving through that, and it handled it quite well. Again, it wasn't going at any speed or anything, so that's good. I will say, though, that on the highway or like open roads, when there is like big gusty winds, the EQB gets absolutely bullied. Like, it just gets pushed around, and I don't know if it's windy enough for me to notice that today, but we'll see. We'll find out here. We're just leaving the parking lot. But it just got bullied. Like, I think it was the day I picked it up. It was just getting like moved on the highway a little bit more than I would enjoy sitting in a vehicle. But let's press the dynamic button here. Let's go full sport mode. Oh yeah, throttle response increases significantly when I do that. Here, let's give it some beams right here. Should be a good spot. Oh yeah, definitely nothing. It's not like EV power that's gonna knock me back at my seat. But, you know, I can definitely get up to highway speeds, no problem. I can match the cars that are currently on the highway pretty easily. So, as far as that's concerned, you're going to really have no trouble. It's definitely not like a super slow EV. It does take its time, but in sport mode, it's quite responsive, quite nice. But usually I'm driving in individual mode or straight up comfort mode. That is what we're doing, because I kind of don't want to use up all the range just ripping around town. I kind of want to have a little bit of confidence. It's a little warmer today. I'm seeing maybe a bit more range than I was at the beginning. It's currently minus 7.5 outside, the vehicle says, so that may be helping me a little bit here. But yeah, definitely not doing any road trips with this thing. No really long drives, really nothing more than like 100 kilometers. I think I'm not driving more than that, like on just a single one way, just because I don't know if I trust this range, even in like, especially in cold weather, especially in like minus, you know, whatever weather we're in right now. No, thank you, no way. So yeah, like I guess this car or this SUV would be good for you if you don't have like a lot of commuting, you want a Mercedes that's an SUV, you want a decent amount of space with a smaller footprint, and you really don't care about range, or you really don't need that much range, then you're gonna be absolutely fine with something like this. Personally, for me though, there's times where I want to drive a little bit more. There's also times where maybe I don't have access to a charger at home, or what if you can't charge this thing and then you get yourself into a pinch. That's not a situation I want to experience ever with any SUV. So probably would not, it's definitely not on my SUV buying list because of this reason, because of how like little range it has. Even like it says max 291, which is like, okay, still pretty sure there's smaller SUVs out there or smaller electric vehicles that still have a little bit more range than that. So it's just one of those things to keep in mind. And yeah, but still, ride quality is good, handling's decent as well, acceleration's okay, and noise isolation is not bad either. So it does have a couple of good things going for it. It's not all bad. But with that being said, I will pick it back up later in the week. All right, so standing outside the Mercedes again, I've got the hood open. I was expecting a front trunk, but no, it's purely just, battery and different, drive motor components and stuff like that here. So I'll pop up the horsepower and torque numbers on the screen because I hadn't had time to actually remember them, but I think it's cool. You know what? This front gets a lot of hate, but I do like it. I would have liked to see a front trunk though. I feel like maybe that would have helped a little bit in terms of usability of the thing, but I kind of get why. This is a really small frame. They're going to have a hard time really hiding these motors and battery packs, so it makes complete sense. But there you go. If you're wondering what it looks like under the hood of an EQB, there it is. All right, back outside for the final time with the Mercedes EQB, fully electric SUV. So I guess the final verdict is really, like I've been kind of feeling all week, it's a really good or decent SUV, maybe not the best EV in the world, because of the range. I don't think I'd take it on road trips, but it's got a surprising amount of room. It's got a good amount of space. It doesn't look terrible either. I know some people are probably not going to be a fan of the looks, but you know what? I don't hate it for what it is. I think it's actually quite nice, quite a bit of room. That's a huge one for me. Space, storage space, just kid space in general is super important for me as a dad. So I feel like it has all of that stuff. And look, it's got the four-wheel drive, so I can drive on surfaces just like these ones without really having any issues. So with that being said, let's hop inside. Let me mount the GoPro up for one last time, and I'll give you my final thoughts. Let's do it. All right, so back on the road for the final time this week with the Mercedes EQB. Now, my opinion has really not changed since the very start of the week on the EQB. It is a decent SUV, does everything that you need an SUV to do. Is that it's got SUV space, doesn't have the SUV ride height, but that's about the only thing it's missing, so I call it a decent SUV. But it's definitely by no means a good EV. Currently I'm sitting at 63% battery with a max range of 204 kilometers, but a current range, I believe that's how it works, of 166 kilometers. Neither one of those numbers at 63% doesn't really inspire that much confidence in terms of just driving. This vehicle is decent if you don't have a lot of daily errands. You can charge it home. You're going to be fine, but to go on a road trip, I feel like if I was to attempt to take this thing from Montreal to Toronto, I'd have to stop to charge like 5 or 6 times. Just way too many times than I'd ever want to stop with an electric vehicle on a road trip. I just feel like it would take me so much longer to get there. You combine that with the fact that the price point for this vehicle is quite high. I think it's like $63,000 or something. That makes it a really hard sell, because at $63,000, you can get a vehicle with a lot more range in terms of an EV. Maybe it won't be a Mercedes, but you'll still get a lot more range out of it. Which makes me think, I feel like maybe the EQB should have been like a plug-in hybrid, because that way you would have had your gas, you would have had the EV room, you would have had kind of the boxy style Mercedes without lacking a bunch of range. The ride quality's been nice, the visibility is decent, acceleration is nothing to brag about, but it's still got that instant torque EV-ness, and you won't have any problem getting on the highway or overtaking slower traffic. Its biggest weak point, the EQB, is just its range. If it just had a little bit more range, it would be on par with a lot of the current EVs. Because it doesn't, it's just simply not on par at all. And because of that, I kind of struggle to figure out who actually buys or wants this car? Because, like, I mean, I guess it would be people like me, right? Because I don't have a home charger, no, but my work has a charger, so when I go into the office, I can plug the car in and I can get up to 100% by the end of the day. That's no worries. And also, I happen to be quite close to my work. I don't really do a lot of traveling for work or anything like that in my car, so, you know, I have the ideal situation. You know, my grocery stores are closed, my malls are also closed, and all of those also have EV chargers, which is a very nice situation to have. But I feel like if you live in an area where, you know, you got to drive like 150 kilometers combined, like there and back, you're risking it, you know, on a single charge, especially if you can't charge the vehicle, which is like scary. So that's why I feel like this is going to be a very small market. I do see a few of the EQBs out on the road. I don't know if they're 2025s, but I have a feeling that these things probably depreciate extremely quickly. So you probably could pick one up on the used market, no problem. I will say though, I guess the weather and stuff is affecting my range, but still, I still feel like the quota range is like 360 kilometers. I still feel like that's on the really low end of things in terms of what EVs can offer us nowadays anyways. I think the battery pack is just simply too small. So that's going to do it for my week with the Mercedes EQB. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you in the market? Is this like the last Mercedes you'd ever buy? Like, what is your take on the EQB? I really want to know. And if it's not the EQB, if you're not considering the EQB, I also want to know why. With that being said, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We're hopefully coming to the end of the winter, so like video production should get a lot easier to do. I'll be able to spend a lot more time outside without absolutely freezing, so you get a lot more outside shots of the vehicle once we get through this next month or so. So bear with me though, I do have some really cool cars lined up for you guys, and I can't wait for you to see them. With that being said, I'll see you next week, see you in the next car. Take care.